The Beatles were very supportive of the Rolling Stones, and during the early days of both bands, there was definitely some friendship between John Lennon and Mick Jagger. Lennon and McCartney even gifted the Stones with one of their songs, which they wouldn't have done if they didn't like them as people. However, somewhere down the line, Lennon's stance changed. The most explanative reason for the hostility between the two of them is when Lennon unleashed an unwarranted personal tirade on the singer. When the Beatles broke up, Lennon turned acidic towards a lot of people, and Jagger was a target. In December 1970, just a few months after the Beatles announced their decision to break up, Rolling Stone ran an interview with John Lennon, conducted by Wenner, the magazine's founder, ostensibly to promote Lennon's first post-Beatles studio album. Fueled by anger, honesty, and ego, it became arguably the most legendary interview ever conducted with a major celebrity. Their interview was so in-depth that Wenner held back plans to run the story in Rolling Stone magazine and instead published the entirety of the quotes as a book. When asked what he thought of the Rolling Stones, Lennon replied, "I think it's a lot of hype. I like honky-tonk women, but I think Mick's a joke. With all that fag dancing, I always did. I enjoy it. I probably go and see his films and all, like everybody else, but really, I think it's a joke." Wenner, sensing that the Beatle had more to get off his chest in regards to the Stones' lead singer, pursued the subject and asked if the two had ever crossed paths. "No, I never do see him," Lennon answered abruptly. "We saw a bit of each other around when Alan was first coming in. I think Mick got jealous. I was always very respectful about Mick and the Stones, but he said a lot of sort of tarty things about the Beatles, which I'm hurt by, because, I can knock the Beatles, but don't like Mick Jagger knock them." Taking things a step further, Lennon made the not-so-subtle hint that Jagger and the Stones regularly copied the Beatles. "I would like to just list what we did and what the Stones did 2 months after on every fucking album. Every fucking thing we did, Mick does exactly the same. He imitates us." It's quite the accusation. The two bands have clearly always been pitted as rivals, but on very few occasions has it been confirmed. Lennon believed his band were being copied across their career. The interview veered off into an expletive-filled diatribe. "And I would like one of you fucking underground people to point it out. Satanic Majesties is pepper. We love you, it's the most fucking bullshit. That's all you need is love. I resent the implication that the Stones are like revolutionaries and that the Beatles weren't. If the Stones were, or are, the Beatles really were too." Lennon wasn't done there, and his rant was far from gone. He scornfully added, "But they are not in the same class, music-wise or power-wise, never were. I never said anything. I always admire them because I like their funky music and I like their style. I like rock and roll and the direction they took after they got over trying to imitate us, but he's even going to do Apple now. He's going to do the same thing." Lennon concluded, "He's obviously so upset by how big the Beatles are compared with him, he never got over it. Now he's in his old age and he's beginning to knock us, and he keeps knocking. I resent it because even his second fucking record, we wrote it for him. Mick said Peace made money. We didn't make any money from Peace, Mick quite enjoyed the Beatles' psychedelic stuff, obviously, and he got John and Paul to sing on perhaps his most psychedelic song." In the Rolling Stones Off the Record, there are some choice quibs about rockers from Keith Richards and one about the Beatles. Mick is also quoted, "I don't like the Beatles' new stuff much. I don't think the Beatles should get back. I wish they'd gone on. I think they were really going the right way, Sgt. Pepper was really who." Obviously, this is one of the reasons why John attacked him, so that's why he said he was always respectful of the Stones, but was hurt by the things Jagger said about them. Other quotes made by Jagger which Lennon has mentioned were unpublished and were probably heard personally and by word of mouth. Then, in 1971, Mick told Rolling Stone magazine, "John Lennon said something in your magazine. It wasn't to do with appearance, more with music. When asked about the Rolling Stones, he said, 'I like the butch stuff and I don't like the faggy stuff.' But you don't want to be butch the whole time. It would drive you mad, wouldn't it?" By the early 70s, John and Mick's career had taken different paths as Lennon's life spiraled out of control. During an 18-month separation from Yoko Ono, Lennon and Jagger resumed their friendship, and later Jagger would hang with Lennon and May Pang during the last weekend that Lennon had in 1974. So maybe Jagger was kind enough to forget the attack. They even collaborated on the song Too Many Cooks. It was recorded in 1974, but never commercially released because of contractual problems. Copies of the number then vanished from a recording studio, and it was feared lost forever, until a Stones fan bought an unmarked record at a garage sale and recognized Jagger's voice. The song was sent to Jagger, who confirmed it was he, along with Lennon and rocker Harry Nilsson. When John returned to Yoko, she did not like for John to spend time with anyone he knew before he and Yoko got together, so she did everything she could to keep Mick away from John. According to May Pang, when Mick heard that John had returned to Yoko, he sighed, "I've lost a friend." Mick Jagger even made a few attempts to buy a unit at the Dakota to be as close to John Lennon as possible, but sadly, Yoko Ono blocked the applications made by Jagger. Jagger said, "John and I had some funny times. We got really drunk and we went out on sailboats and we just sat around with guitars and played." When he went back with Yoko, I was probably considered one of the bad influences, so I was never allowed to see him after that. Mick has also been quoted as saying, "I liked John a lot. He was the one I really got on with the most. We weren't buddies, but we were always friendly. But after the Beatles and the Stones stopped playing clubs, we didn't see each other that much until he separated from Yoko, around 1974. We got really friendly again, and when he went back with Yoko, he went into hibernation. When I went to visit someone in the Dakota, I'd leave him a note saying, 'I live next door. I know you don't want to see anyone, but if you do, please call.' He never did."
Hello.
That was Ringo, folks.
Well, what can I say?
And goodbye
You
from all
know.
of us.
Well, this is Ringo. Everyone seems to have said everything here, so I'll just sign off by saying cheerio and best of luck from the Beatles.